Hello, my name is Shoham and I work at the Adizes Institute. And today I'd like to talk about change. Everybody's talking about how the rate of change is accelerating. Why is the rate of change accelerating? Many people are saying that it's accelerating because of technology. It's accelerating because of the internet, because of increased communication. Well, I'd like to present a different theory because I was thinking about it and I don't really see how these things interact. How does email increase the rate of change? How does technology do it? So let's take a look at this. I had my big illumination when I started thinking about a bus. If I take a bus to work every day and the bus changes its schedule, then they'll have a change in my life. I will experience change. Why? Because I depend on the bus. Note, if I don't depend on the bus, if I drive to work on my own, and the bus changes its schedule, it means no change for me. It means nothing. So what causes change? Dependency. If I depend on something and it changes, it means change for me. If I don't depend on it, it means no change for me. So dependency is that key word. So now why is the rate of change accelerating? What's happening? Well, what's happening is that we are becoming a more interdependent society. Let's take a look 100 years ago. Maybe I was living on the prairie with my family and I raised my own crops and raised my own livestock and educated my own children and made my own clothes. I didn't depend on anybody for anything. What did I depend on? The weather, to make sure that the seasons came. And that was really the only change in our lives, was the seasons, every year. But what's happening nowadays? Well, I don't make my own clothes. I don't raise my own food. I don't educate my own children. I depend on other people to do it. This is called globalization. What it means is that we have increased interdependency. Not just dependency, but interdependency. That means that I depend on you, you depend on him, he depends on him, and he depends on me. We're in a big cycle. So what does that mean? It means that, well, if I depend on one thing and it changes, then it's changed for me. If I depend on 1,000 things, then the chances that one of those things is going to change is increased by a lot. Now, when those things are interdependent, then when one thing changes, it's like a chain reaction. It goes all the way around and comes back to me. And then when I change, it goes all the way around. It's exponentially faster. The rate of change is increasing exponentially faster because of increased interdependency. Now, what does that mean? Well, when the environment changes, well, I have to adapt to that changing environment. Why? Because it's cold outside, I have to put on a sweater. I'm cold, that's a problem. When our environment changes, it creates problems and opportunities, depending on how you call them, that I have to manage, I have to adapt to. When we have an increased rate of change, there's an increased rate at which I have to adapt, I have to manage. What's happening is that we are changing so fast that we're having so many problems and opportunities, much more than we can actually handle right now. There's another aspect to it. Because of increased interdependency, right? Like when I'm not interdependent and I have a problem, I just make a decision and solve it. But because of interdependency, in order to solve my problems, I can't do it on my own because I depend on many other people. So if I depend on many other people, I need their cooperation in order to solve my problems. Which makes what? The more people, the more complex the problem is. So what we're seeing now is more problems that are more complex because of interdependency. Now this is a bad thing. It's a bad thing because, if we don't solve our problems, if we can't solve them fast enough, they become crises. And we're seeing crises everywhere right now. Economic crisis, obesity crisis, healthcare crisis, education crisis. You name it, it's turning into a crisis. That's the bad side of interdependency. That's the bad side of globalization. What's the good side? The good side is that because of interdependency, it allows me to specialize. Specialize in a single field, right? Why? Because I don't have to raise my own food. I don't have to educate my own children. I can focus on just one idea, one specialty. If you look at technology, what allows technology? If Steve Jobs would have been born 100 years ago, with all of his genius, he could never have invented the iPhone. How did he invent it? He didn't invent anything. He just put together different pieces and combined them. Why? Somebody specialized in one component. Somebody else specialized in another component. What allowed them to specialize? The interdependency. They didn't have to worry about raising food. They didn't have to worry about educating their children. That's the beauty of interdependency. It's an opera threat. It allows us to specialize and therefore increase technology, increase our quality of life. But on the bad side, it increases the rate of change, creating more problems that we have to manage, which requires a new way of managing. And that's what Adizes excels at.